So we saw in a previous video that we need to be careful when specifying calculations in Tableau to make sure that they're happening at the right level of detail. So things like ratios in particular can be pretty tricky. Do we compute the ratio first and then take the average? Or, well, let's make it easier. Do we compute the ratio first and then take the sum? Or do we take the sums and then take the ratio of the sums? Those are two different things, actually, and they matter. Level of detail calculations take this reasoning to the next level and allow us to concrete and specifically demand the level of detail at which a computation will be performed. So whenever we're aggregating level of detail comes up, these level of detail expressions are how we're going to specify to Tableau what we want. And in particular, they always have the same form. So it's the method, and we'll talk about what those are, the level of detail that we want to operate at, or that we're dealing with, and then the calculation itself. So there are three methods in Tableau that we can use: include, exclude, and fixed. Include says, regardless of what the level of detail of the view is, no matter how coarse it is, I need you to include the level of detail that I'm going to specify when you perform the following calculations. So for instance, we might have a visualization that is at the region level of detail, but we want the computation to happen at the country level of detail. We would say include country and then do the following level of detail, even if the level of detail of the view is region. So there's no country in the level of detail of the view, but the computation is happening at that level of detail. So include forces Tableau to go to a finer level of detail to perform the computation, even if the view is at the coarser level of detail. Exclude does exactly the opposite. It says even if the even if the visualization is at a fine level of detail, perform the following computation at a coarser level of detail. So even if, for instance, the visualization is at the country level of detail, perform the following computation at the region level of detail. Fixed is kind of it's like both of them at the same time. It basically says, regardless of anything, perform, whether it's coarser or finer or whatever, always perform the level of the following computation at the following level of detail. So between these three, you can get away with any computation that you want. So what we're going to do is, rather than try to force everything into one big video, I'm going to do a video on include and a video on exclude to show you how you can use some use cases for these things, because they are incredibly important and incredibly useful in all sorts of different situations. You really have to see them in action to appreciate them. So more on that soon.